I sat across from Marcus Hartford in the conference room, my hands folded in my lap, listening to him explain how my 18 years at TechFlow Solutions were coming to an end. His daughter Amber, fresh from business school at 26 years old, would be taking my position as Vice President of Client Relations, effective immediately. He mentioned something about a generous severance package, but his tone felt dismissive, almost bored. I maintained my composure, nodding politely, while inside I felt my entire world cracking apart. 18 years, gone in 18 minutes. I walked back to my office in a daze that Friday evening, my legs moving on autopilot while my mind struggled to process what had just happened. The hallway that I had walked down thousands of times suddenly felt foreign and hostile. Colleagues I had worked alongside for years avoided making eye contact. Some whispered to each other as I passed, their voices dropping to barely audible murmurs. I pretended not to notice. My office looked the same as it had that morning when I left for what I thought was just another routine meeting with Marcus. My college diploma still hung on the wall next to photos of my late mother. The small bronze plaque from our biggest client win 5 years ago sat on my bookshelf. Everything was exactly as I had left it, but somehow it all felt like it belonged to someone else now. I started packing slowly, carefully wrapping the framed photo of my mother in tissue paper. She had been so proud when I made VP. I could still hear her voice on the phone that day, practically shouting with excitement. She had passed away 3 years ago, and moments like this made me miss her desperately. She would have known what to say to make this hurt less. Jordan, my assistant, appeared in the doorway. At 23 years old, Jordan had only been with the company for 2 years, but we had developed a good working relationship. Their face was pale, eyes red-rimmed. "I am so sorry," Jordan said quietly. "This is completely wrong." I managed a small smile. "It's not your fault. These things happen." "But 18 years, Jordan protested. "You built this entire department. You brought in most of our major clients." I appreciated the loyalty, but I could see the fear behind it. Jordan needed this job. Student loans, I knew. Rent in Austin was not cheap for someone just starting out. "I'll be fine," I said, though I was not sure I believed it. "You focus on doing good work. That's what matters." After Jordan left, I turned to my computer. This was the moment I had been both dreading and preparing for mentally since leaving Marcus's office. The client relationship management system glowed on my screen, and I stared at it for a long moment. I had built this system from the ground up over the past decade. Not physically coded it, but designed every aspect of its structure. The way information was organized, the intricate filing system, the relationship maps that connected clients to projects to timelines. It was complex by design, layered with security protocols, and organized in a way that made sense to me and the team I had trained over the years. The Meridian Industries file sat right where I had left it that morning. $192 million. The biggest deal in TechFlow's history. Douglas Meridian himself was scheduled to arrive Wednesday for the final contract signing. I had spent 9 months cultivating this relationship, understanding their needs, designing custom solutions, building trust. The file contained everything: technical specifications, implementation timelines, communication logs, relationship notes about Douglas's preferences and concerns, custom integration plans, budget breakdowns, risk assessments. It was all there, nested in folders, with my own coding system organized in a structure that had evolved organically over years of managing complex client relationships. I logged out properly and professionally. Every system, every account, every access point. I did not delete a single file. I did not sabotage anything. I simply closed everything down the way any departing employee should. But as I shut down my computer for the last time, I knew something that Marcus clearly did not. This system was not just files and folders. It was a living architecture that required understanding to navigate. Without guidance, it would be like trying to read a book written in a language you did not speak. I packed the last of my personal items into a cardboard box and walked out of TechFlow Solutions just after 7 that evening. The sun was setting over Austin, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I drove home to my small house in a quiet suburb, carried my box inside, and set it down in the living room. The weekend passed in a fog. Saturday, I sat at my kitchen table and reviewed my severance package. 6 months' salary. It sounded generous until I did the math. Mortgage payment, car payment, utilities, insurance, groceries. 6 months would go faster than Marcus probably realized. But I felt confident about finding new work. 18 years of experience, a proven track record, strong client relationships. Surely someone would value that. Sunday evening, I opened my laptop and started updating my resume. The words looked good on paper. VP of Client Relations, managed a portfolio of 60-plus major accounts, brought in over $400 million in revenue during my tenure, led a team of 12. It read like success. Monday morning, I woke up to chaos on my phone. 17 missed calls, 34 emails. I scrolled through them with growing unease. Jordan, other colleagues I had worked with for years, even Marcus himself. The early messages were polite. Quick question about the Meridian file. Need to confirm something about the contract terms. But as the morning progressed, the tone escalated. Urgent. Call immediately. Critical issue. I ignored them while I made coffee and tried to think clearly. I no longer worked for TechFlow. Their problems were not my problems anymore. I focused on my resume, trying to craft the perfect cover letter for the positions I planned to apply to. My personal cell phone rang just after 2 in the afternoon. Marcus. I almost did not answer, but curiosity won. Deborah, his voice was strained in a way I had never heard before. We need your help. Hello, Marcus, I said calmly. What can I do for you? It's the Meridian file. Amber cannot locate the implementation specifications in the system. Douglas arrives Wednesday. We need those documents. I took a slow sip of my coffee. I am sure Amber will figure it out. She has my old login credentials, does she not? The system is more complicated than we realized, Marcus said, and I could hear him trying to control his frustration. We just need you to walk her through it quickly. Just point her in the right direction. I no longer work for TechFlow, I reminded him gently. I am sure with her MBA from that excellent program she will navigate it successfully. There was a pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice had shifted from strained to cold. Deborah, we may need to reconsider the terms of your severance if you are unwilling to provide basic transition assistance. My heart rate picked up, but I kept my voice steady. The severance was already agreed upon in writing, Marcus. Best of luck with the Meridian deal. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but for the first time since Friday afternoon, I felt something other than numbness. I felt a small spark of power. Tuesday morning began with an email that made my stomach drop. The sender was Patricia Wyatt, TechFlow's corporate attorney. The subject line read, regarding transition obligations. I opened it with trembling fingers. The letter was formal and threatening in equal measure. It claimed I had proprietary knowledge essential to ongoing business operations and that my employment contract had included implied obligations for reasonable transition assistance. It stated that failure to provide such assistance could result in withholding of agreed-upon severance and potential legal action for breach of contract. I immediately dug out my old employment contract from my file cabinet and read through it line by line. The language was frustratingly vague in places. There were standard clauses about company property and confidential information, but nothing explicitly about transition obligations. However, the way the contract was worded, a lawyer could probably argue that some level of cooperation was implied. I did not have money for a lawyer to fight this. The coffee I was drinking suddenly tasted bitter. By Tuesday afternoon, I had applied to 3 positions at other tech companies in Austin: Director of Client Services at a startup, VP of Business Development at an established firm, Senior Account Executive at a company I had competed against for years. All 3 felt like good fits for my experience level. Within 2 hours, 2 of them sent automated rejections. The third never responded at all. I called Amanda, a former colleague who had left TechFlow 3 years ago, to work for one of the companies I had just applied to. We had always gotten along well, and I thought she might at least provide a reference or some insight into what was happening. "Hey, Deborah." Amanda's voice was oddly formal when she answered. "Hi, Amanda. I am sorry to bother you, but I was hoping we could talk. I recently left TechFlow and I applied for the director position at your company. There was an uncomfortable pause. Yeah, I heard you left. Listen, I am actually in the middle of something. Can I call you back? Of course, I said, but I knew she would not call back. She never did. By Wednesday, I understood what was happening. Marcus was reaching out to his network. Austin's tech community was smaller than people realized. Everyone knew everyone. A few well-placed comments from a CEO about an employee being difficult or unprofessional could poison a reputation overnight. Jordan texted me Wednesday afternoon. The Meridian meeting was a disaster. I called Jordan immediately, keeping my voice low. What happened? Amber could not answer any of Douglas Meridian's questions about the implementation timeline. She did not know about the custom integration you had designed. She kept saying she would get back to him with details. He asked her point blank if she had read the proposal, and she said she had, but it was obvious she had not. He walked out after 40 minutes and said he needed to reconsider the partnership. My first feeling was vindication. My second feeling was dread. If the Meridian deal fell apart, Marcus would blame me even more aggressively. Marcus is furious, Jordan continued. He yelled at Amber in front of everyone. But then I heard him on a call with someone and he was blaming you, saying you sabotaged the system before you left. I did not sabotage anything, I said firmly. I know that. But he is telling people you did. Wednesday evening, Marcus called me again. This time his approach was completely different, conciliatory, almost apologetic. Deborah, I think we got off on the wrong foot Monday. I want to make this right. I said nothing, waiting. How about this? We bring you on as a consultant for 2 weeks, just to help Amber get up to speed on the key accounts, especially Meridian. We will pay you your regular weekly rate, $3,000 per week for 2 weeks, $6,000 total. Easy money for you, and it helps us ensure a smooth transition. I needed money. My mortgage payment was due in 10 days. I had been counting on that severance, but if they withheld it, I would be in serious trouble fast. Just 2 weeks, Marcus pressed. Then we all move on amicably. I will even write you a strong reference letter. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Thursday morning, I walked back into TechFlow as a consultant. The atmosphere was immediately hostile. People who had smiled at me for years now looked away. The receptionist who used to greet me warmly barely nodded. Amber was in my old office. She had already redecorated. My bookshelf was gone, replaced with abstract art pieces. My comfortable desk chair had been swapped for some modern chrome thing. "Oh, you are here," Amber said when I knocked on the doorframe. She did not look up from her phone. "Your father asked me to help you get oriented with the client management system," I said politely. "Right, the system." She finally looked at me and her expression was one of barely concealed contempt. "It is needlessly complicated. I do not understand why you would design something so convoluted." I bit back my first response and tried to stay professional. It evolved over many years based on client needs and security requirements. Once you understand the logic, it makes sense. For the next 3 hours, I walked Amber through the system. I showed her where the Meridian files were nested. I explained the coding system I used for different types of clients. I demonstrated how the relationship maps connected to the project timelines. She took notes but kept interrupting with comments like, "This seems overly complex for no reason, and I think I will simplify this entire structure." I tried to explain that the complexity served a purpose, but she clearly was not interested in my reasoning. "Why do you have so many subfolders?" she asked at one point. "Because different team members need access to different information levels. This way we can control who sees what without creating entirely separate systems." "That is so inefficient. Everything should just be open and accessible." "Not when you are dealing with confidential client information and competitive bids," I said, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. She rolled her eyes. "Well, I am going to reorganize everything anyway. Thanks for the overview." I left her office feeling uneasy. That afternoon, Jordan found me in the break room. "She is already changing everything," Jordan whispered urgently. "Right after you left, she started moving files and renaming folders. She is trying to flatten the entire structure." Did she make backups first? I asked, alarmed. Jordan's expression told me everything I needed to know. By Thursday evening, the disaster had unfolded. Amber's reorganization had corrupted several key files. The detailed Meridian integration plans were now showing as unreadable. Critical documents had been moved to locations where the system's internal links could not find them. Marcus called me into his office just before 5. "The system is worse now than it was Monday," he said accusingly. "What did you do?" I showed Amber exactly where everything was and explained how the system worked. I said, keeping my voice level. What happened after that was her decision. "You clearly explained it poorly. This is sabotage." I did no such thing. I spent 3 hours walking her through everything. She chose to reorganize without understanding the architecture. "We will not be paying your consulting fee," Marcus said flatly. "You obviously came here to make things worse." "That is not what happened, and you know it. Get out of my building." I left TechFlow Thursday evening knowing I had just made everything exponentially worse for myself. I had walked directly into their trap. Friday morning, I received a formal letter via email from Patricia Wyatt again. This one was worse. TechFlow was formally accusing me of intentional sabotage. The letter claimed I had deliberately designed the client relationship management system to be incomprehensible to anyone but myself. It further claimed I had corrupted files before my departure. They were withholding all severance pay. Worse, they were demanding I pay back the last 3 months of my salary for breach of fiduciary duty. $48,000. I read the letter 3 times, each time feeling more sick. I did not have $48,000. I had maybe $12,000 in savings. My checking account had $4,000. The severance I had been counting on was gone. I sat at my kitchen table and tried to think logically, but panic kept creeping in. Without the severance, I had maybe 2 months before I could not make my mortgage payment. Without a job, I would burn through my savings in weeks just covering basic expenses. Friday evening, my best friend Sarah called. She was a marketing director at a mid-size firm in Austin, and we had been friends since college. "I heard about what happened," Sarah said, her voice sympathetic. "I am so sorry." "Thanks," I said, grateful to hear a friendly voice. "I have to ask, though. People are saying you sabotaged your own system before leaving. That does not sound like you, but I wanted to hear your side." My chest tightened. "I did not sabotage anything, Sarah. I logged out properly and professionally. Marcus is spreading lies because his daughter messed everything up and he needs someone to blame." "I believe you," Sarah said, but there was a hesitation in her voice that had not been there before. "It's just that people are talking, and you know how this town is." After we hung up, I realized even Sarah was not entirely convinced. Marcus's lies were spreading faster than I could counter them. The weekend was torture. I applied to 11 more jobs. I received 7 immediate rejections. The other 4 simply never responded. Saturday afternoon, I tried reaching out directly to some of the clients I had worked with for years. Helen from DataStream Corporation, Michael from Quantum Solutions, Lisa from Integrated Tech Systems. These were people I had built genuine relationships with over multiple years and successful projects. Helen's assistant told me she was unavailable. Michael did not return my call. Lisa answered, but her voice was cold. "Deborah, I have been advised by TechFlow's legal team that I should not communicate with you regarding any business matters. I just wanted to explain what happened," I started. "I cannot talk to you. I am sorry." She hung up. Marcus had not just poisoned my reputation with potential employers. He had cut me off from my entire professional network. Monday morning, I had one final interview scheduled. I had applied for this position 2 weeks earlier before everything fell apart. Director of Business Development at a startup in Dallas. It would mean relocating, but I was desperate enough to consider it. The interview was via video call. Craig, the hiring manager, seemed friendly at first. We talked about my experience, my approach to client relations, my track record of success. Everything was going well until he leaned back in his chair and his expression changed. "I have to ask about your recent departure from TechFlow. We heard you left under difficult circumstances. Can you explain what happened?" I took a breath and tried to explain calmly and professionally. I talked about Marcus's daughter replacing me. I mentioned that there had been some misunderstandings about the transition. I emphasized my 18 years of successful work. Craig listened, nodding occasionally, but his expression remained skeptical. "We spoke with Marcus Hartford," he said, finally. "He indicated there were serious performance issues in your final months. He mentioned concerns about your cooperation during the transition period. He suggested that you might have intentionally complicated their systems to maintain your position." My heart sank. That is completely untrue. Well, it is a serious accusation from a CEO. We need to be careful about our hires. The interview ended shortly after that. Craig said they would be in touch, but we both knew they would not be. I sat in my car in a grocery store parking lot and cried for the first time since this nightmare began. Monday evening, Jordan texted me, "I should not be telling you this, but you need to know." My phone rang a moment later. "Amber found some of your old emails," Jordan said quietly. "Messages where you talked about clients being frustrated with the old system before you built the new one. She is taking them completely out of context. She is telling people you deliberately kept clients confused, so you would seem indispensable. That is insane. Those emails were from 8 years ago when we were identifying problems to solve." "I know, but she is building a narrative. She is saying you were insecure and controlling. Marcus is backing her up. They are preparing for legal action." Tuesday morning, the news broke. Meridian Industries had officially pulled out of the deal with TechFlow. Douglas Meridian released a brief statement through his company's public relations team. After careful consideration, Meridian Industries has decided not to move forward with the proposed partnership with TechFlow Solutions. "We have concerns about their ability to deliver on the promised specifications." $192 million. Gone. TechFlow's stock, they were a small, publicly traded company, dropped 18% by noon. Tuesday afternoon, a process server arrived at my house. I signed for the envelope with shaking hands and opened it as soon as the server left. Formal legal complaint. TechFlow Solutions versus Deborah Hartley. They were suing me for damages related to the lost Meridian deal. They claimed my intentional sabotage and proprietary system manipulation directly caused the loss. They were seeking $192 million in damages. The complaint was thick with attached exhibits. Emails I had written years ago taken completely out of context. Statements from Amber claiming I had threatened her during our training session. A technical analysis from their IT department claiming the system was deliberately designed to be incomprehensible. It was all lies and distortions, but it was presented in official legal language with an Austin law firm's letterhead. I could not afford a lawyer for a case like this. A lawsuit of this magnitude would require a major firm and hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Even if I won, I would be bankrupted by the defense costs alone. I sat on my living room floor with the complaint spread around me and realized the full scope of what Marcus was doing. He was not just firing me or slandering me. He was trying to utterly destroy me, financially, professionally, legally. I was going to lose everything. Wednesday morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. A local Austin business publication had run an article, TechFlow sues former executive for $192 million in alleged sabotage. I read it with growing horror. The article was completely one-sided, sympathetic to TechFlow and damning to me. It quoted Marcus extensively, describing me as a trusted employee who had betrayed the company. It mentioned me by name multiple times. It detailed the accusations without including any response from me, because no one had bothered to contact me for comment. By noon, the article had been shared hundreds of times on LinkedIn and Twitter. My LinkedIn inbox filled with messages. Some were from people I had never met, calling me names and accusing me of corporate sabotage. Others were from former connections, removing me from their networks. I watched my professional reputation disintegrate in real time. Thursday, I met with a lawyer for a free consultation. His name was Gregory Palmer, and his office was in a strip mall near the highway. He listened to my story, reviewed the complaint, and was brutally honest. "This will cost you at least $200,000 to defend properly. Probably more, even if we win, which I think we would. Because their case is weak, you will be financially destroyed by the legal fees. What are my options? I asked. You could try to settle. Admit some minor fault, agree to a small payment, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and move on. They are not offering settlement. They want to destroy me. Gregory nodded grimly. Then you need to either find a lawyer willing to work on contingency, which will be nearly impossible for a case like this, or you need to represent yourself, which I strongly advise against. Or you need to declare bankruptcy and let the courts sort it out, but that comes with its own consequences. I left his office feeling more hopeless than ever. Friday afternoon, Sarah called and asked to meet for coffee. I agreed, desperate for any human connection. We met at a coffee shop near downtown. Sarah looked uncomfortable as soon as she sat down. I wanted to talk to you in person, she began. Deborah, I believe you. I really do. But my company does business with TechFlow. My boss pulled me aside yesterday and told me that I should not be seen associating with you right now. He said it could hurt our relationship with them. So, this is you distancing yourself, I said flatly. It is not personal. It is business. You understand that, right? Once this all blows over, we can reconnect. When it blows over, I repeated. When I am completely bankrupt and my career is destroyed, then we can be friends again. That is not fair, Sarah protested. I have to think about my own career. She left shortly after. I sat alone at the table with my coffee growing cold, realizing I truly had no one. The weekend was the darkest period of my life. Saturday, I could not get out of bed. I had not eaten a proper meal in days. I had not slept more than a few hours each night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that legal complaint, or Marcus's face, or my dwindling bank account balance. Sunday, I forced myself to shower and try to think clearly. I went through all my old files looking for anything that might help my case. My employment contract, old performance reviews, emails praising my work, documentation of successful projects. It all showed I had been an exemplary employee, but none of it disproved their accusations. None of it proved Amber had corrupted the system, not me. Monday morning, I made a desperate decision. I would reach out directly to Douglas Meridian. If I could explain what really happened, maybe he would make a statement supporting me. Maybe his testimony would counter their narrative. I found his contact information through old files and drafted a careful email explaining the situation. I did not attack Marcus or Amber. I simply stated the facts and asked if he would be willing to discuss what had transpired. His assistant responded within 2 hours, Mr. Meridian appreciates your outreach, but is not interested in communicating regarding this matter. I had applied for a position well below my qualifications, account manager at a small consulting firm. The salary was less than half what I had been making, but I was desperate. The rejection email came Monday afternoon. The reason given was professionally vague. After reviewing your recent professional history, we have decided to move forward with other candidates. I was now unemployable in my own field. Monday evening, Jordan texted, I am so sorry. I was told I would be fired if I contacted you again. I called Jordan immediately. They know I have been helping you, Jordan, said voice thick with emotion. Marcus called me into his office today. He said if I communicate with you in any way, I am terminated immediately. I have student loans. My rent is due. I cannot lose this job. I understand, I said, though my chest felt hollow. You need to protect yourself. I hope you understand. I feel terrible. I do understand. Take care of yourself, Jordan. After we hung up, I realized I had lost my last ally inside TechFlow. Late Monday night, I received an email from Patricia Wyatt, the TechFlow attorney. The subject line read, Notice of Additional Legal Action. My hands were shaking as I opened it. They were escalating. They had reported me to the FBI for potential wire fraud and computer crimes. The email stated, Federal investigators will be contacting you regarding allegations of intentionally destroying proprietary data with intent to harm interstate commerce. This was no longer just a civil lawsuit. This was criminal. I read the email 3 times, each word feeling like a physical blow. Wire fraud was a federal offense. Computer crimes carried serious prison time. They were not just trying to bankrupt me. They were trying to send me to prison. I sat on my living room floor back against the couch, staring at nothing. I had no money for a lawyer, no job prospects, no friends left, no professional reputation, and now I was facing potential federal criminal charges. I could not see any way forward. I could not see any path that did not end in complete destruction. For the first time in my life, I understood how people reached a point where they simply could not go on. I looked at the photo of my mother on the side table. She had always been so strong, so resilient. She had raised me alone after my father left when I was 6. She had worked 2 jobs to put me through college. She had been so proud of everything I had accomplished. What would she think if she could see me now? I sat there on the floor until sunrise, unable to move, unable to think, unable to do anything but exist in that moment of absolute despair. Tuesday morning, 2 FBI agents arrived at my front door. I opened it to find a woman and a man, both in dark suits holding badges. Deborah Hartley, the woman asked. Yes. I am Agent Rachel Torres, and this is Agent David Fleming. We are with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We would like to ask you some questions about your recent employment at TechFlow Solutions. They were professional but serious. I invited them in because I did not know what else to do. We sat in my living room, them on the couch, me in the armchair across from them. Agent Torres did most of the talking. She asked about my role at TechFlow, about the client relationship management system, about my departure, about the Meridian deal. I answered everything truthfully. I explained how I had built the system over years. I described my termination. I told them about Amber's reorganization and the resulting file corruption. I showed them my employment records, my performance reviews, everything I had. Agent Fleming took notes while Agent Torres listened carefully. Her expression was hard to read, somewhere between sympathetic and skeptical. Did you delete any files before you left the company? She asked. No. I logged out properly. I did not delete anything. Did you design the system to be deliberately difficult to navigate? No. It was complex because it managed complex relationships and sensitive data, but it was logical and well documented. They asked to take my laptop for forensic examination. I had no choice but to agree. They gave me a receipt and told me not to leave the state. After they left, I sat in my empty house feeling violated. Federal agents had been in my home. My laptop was gone. This was real. Tuesday afternoon, a local television news station picked up the story. The evening news ran a segment, "Local Executive Under Federal Investigation." They showed my photo, one from TechFlow's old website. They detailed the allegations. They quoted Marcus, but did not include any statement from me, because I had not responded to their requests for comment, which I had never received. My neighbors saw it. Within hours, I started getting looks when I checked my mailbox. The woman next door, who usually waved at me, turned away quickly. The couple across the street stared at me from their porch. Wednesday morning, I tried to access my bank account to pay bills and discovered it had been frozen. I called the bank immediately. There is a court order related to a civil lawsuit, the bank representative explained. The account has been frozen pending resolution of the case. I cannot release any funds. How am I supposed to pay my mortgage? Buy food. You will need to work that out with the court and your attorney, ma'am. I had $437 in cash in my wallet. My credit cards were already maxed out from the legal consultation fees. I could not pay my mortgage payment, which was due in 2 days. I could not buy groceries beyond what $400 would cover. I was being systematically starved out. Thursday, the same business publication that had destroyed my reputation ran another article. This one was an interview with Marcus titled "Standing Strong After Betrayal, TechFlow CEO Speaks Out." I forced myself to read it. Marcus positioned himself as the victim. He talked about how difficult it was to discover that someone he had trusted for 18 years had betrayed the company. He praised Amber for her bravery in stepping into such a difficult situation. "My daughter has shown incredible strength," he was quoted as saying. "She walked into a situation that was deliberately sabotaged, and she has been working tirelessly to fix the damage. I could not be prouder of her." The article painted Amber as a young hero, bravely saving the company from the mess I had left behind. I felt physically ill reading it. Thursday evening, I stood in my kitchen staring at my nearly empty refrigerator. I had a half loaf of bread, some peanut butter, a few cans of soup, maybe enough food for a week if I stretched it. I looked around at my house. The mortgage was $1,300 a month. With the frozen bank account, I could not pay it. I would be in default within days. Foreclosure would follow within months. I had spent 18 years building a career, a reputation, a life. It had all disappeared in less than 3 weeks. I sat on my kitchen floor and thought about my mother. I thought about how proud she had been when I bought this house. I thought about her voice telling me that hard work and integrity always paid off eventually. I wanted to believe that. But sitting on that floor, hungry and broke, and facing federal charges and a massive lawsuit and foreclosure, I could not find any evidence that integrity mattered at all. Friday morning, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost did not answer. I was so tired of bad news. But something made me pick up. Deborah Hartley. The voice was male professional, somewhat familiar. Yes, this is Douglas Meridian. I sat up straight, suddenly alert. Mr. Meridian, I am surprised to hear from you. I have been following the news about your situation. I want you to know that I do not believe what TechFlow is claiming. You do not. My voice cracked. Before the deal fell apart, your replacement made statements that directly contradicted the documentation you had provided me. I reviewed our entire email history last night. Everything you sent me was detailed, professional, and technically sound. Amber Hartford could not explain any of it. That does not suggest sabotage on your part. It suggests incompetence on hers. I started crying. I could not help it. It was the first time in weeks anyone had believed me. I want to see your original documentation, Douglas continued. Everything you have. I am bringing in my own IT forensics team. If what I suspect is true, if you were set up, I want to help you prove it. Why, I managed to ask. Why would you help me? Because I have been in business for 35 years and I know a frame job when I see one. And because what Marcus Hartford is doing is unconscionable. Friday afternoon, Douglas sent his IT forensics team to my house. The lead consultant was a woman named Patricia Coleman, sharp and no nonsense. I showed her everything. My personal backups of the system documentation, my emails with clients, my project files, my training materials. Patricia worked on her laptop for hours, examining every file, checking metadata, building timelines. Finally, she looked up at me. The file corruption happened after you left. The timestamps do not lie. Every corrupted file shows modification dates and times after your last system logout. Can you prove it? I asked. Absolutely. More than that, I can prove someone tried to make it look like you corrupted them before you left. They manually changed some of the visible dates, but they did not know how to alter the deep metadata. It is amateur hour. This is fraud. She called Douglas on speakerphone. It is exactly what we suspected, Patricia said. Clear evidence of file tampering. Amber Hartford made the changes and then tried to backdate them. The evidence is ironclad. TechFlow is about to collapse, Douglas said. The Meridian deal was their lifeline. Without it, they are in serious financial trouble. Marcus knows this. He is desperate. He needs a scapegoat to explain to his board and his investors why the company is failing. That scapegoat is you. What do I do? I asked. You fight back, Douglas said. And I am going to help you. But you need to understand something. Marcus Hartford will fight dirty. This will get worse before it gets better. Are you prepared for that? For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt anger. Clean, focused anger. Yes, I said. I am ready. Saturday. Douglas Meridian's legal team moved into action with precision that took my breath away. His attorney, Thomas Bradford, was exactly the kind of lawyer I could never have afforded on my own. Expensive suit, confident demeanor, and a reputation that made other lawyers nervous. Thomas and Patricia Coleman spent the entire day with me going through every detail of what had happened. They built a timeline. They documented every false statement TechFlow had made. They compiled the forensic evidence showing exactly when and how the files had been corrupted. This is better than I hoped, Thomas said Saturday evening. They handed us everything we need. He explained the strategy. First, get the FBI to drop the criminal investigation. Second, file a massive countersuit against TechFlow. Third, expose Amber's actions publicly. Fourth, demand a settlement that included not just money, but complete public vindication. And I am going to make sure every company in Austin knows what Marcus did, Douglas added. He tried to destroy you to protect his reputation. I am going to destroy his reputation to protect the truth. I felt simultaneously terrified and empowered. Sunday, Thomas contacted Agent Torres directly. He sent her Patricia's forensic report, along with a detailed legal brief, explaining exactly what had happened. Agent Torres called back within 3 hours. Miss Hartley, we are closing our investigation, she said. The forensic evidence clearly shows you did not commit any crime. It appears you were targeted maliciously. We will be contacting TechFlow with some questions about filing false reports. I cried again, but this time from relief. Monday morning, everything accelerated. The FBI agents visited TechFlow and questioned Marcus and Amber. According to Jordan, who texted me from a new phone number Marcus did not know about, Amber panicked during the questioning. She contradicted herself multiple times. She admitted to reorganizing the system, but claimed she did not understand how it had caused problems. Marcus tried to maintain control, but the agents were not friendly. They warned him about the serious penalties for filing false federal reports. By Monday afternoon, word had spread through TechFlow that the FBI investigation had turned toward the company itself. Employees were nervous. The stock dropped another 6%. Tuesday, Thomas filed our countersuit. The complaint was a thing of beauty. 143 pages of detailed allegations backed by irrefutable evidence. Wrongful termination, defamation, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We were seeking $25 million in damages. The suit included every piece of forensic evidence. It included Douglas Meridian's statement about why he had pulled his deal. It included proof of Amber's file tampering. It included documentation of Marcus's lies to the media and to other companies in the industry. Thomas filed it publicly. Within an hour, the media had picked it up. The same business publication that had destroyed my reputation now ran, "Shocking Reversal, TechFlow accused of framing former executive." The article detailed the evidence. It quoted Douglas Meridian extensively. He did not hold back. I pulled my deal because I witnessed incompetence and dishonesty from TechFlow's leadership. Deborah Hartley was professional and knowledgeable throughout our negotiations. Her replacement was neither. The accusations against Miss Hartley are false, and the evidence proves it. By Tuesday afternoon, public opinion had shifted completely. My LinkedIn inbox filled with supportive messages. Former colleagues who had avoided me were now reaching out to apologize. Sarah called apologetic and embarrassed. "I should have stood by you," she said. "I am so sorry." "You did what you thought you needed to do," I said. I was not ready to forgive her completely, but I appreciated the apology. Wednesday morning, my phone rang. It was Marcus. I almost did not answer, but Thomas had told me to record any contact from him. "Deborah." His voice was shaking. "We need to talk. This has gotten out of hand." "You tried to send me to prison," I said coldly. "Amber made mistakes. I was protecting my daughter. Surely you can understand that. You knowingly lied about me. You tried to destroy my entire life. Let us settle this quietly. I will give you your severance, a good reference. We both drop our lawsuits and move on." "Talk to my attorney," I said, and hung up. My hands were shaking, but it felt good. For the first time, Marcus was the one who was scared. Wednesday afternoon, the news broke that 3 major clients had pulled their contracts with TechFlow. All 3 cited ethical concerns. All 3 referenced the accusations against me and their belief that the company had acted improperly. TechFlow's stock plummeted 42%. Trading was halted temporarily due to volatility. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. By Wednesday evening, rumors were everywhere. Marcus would be forced out. The company might not survive. Layoffs were coming. Jordan called me from yet another new number. "I quit this morning," Jordan said. "I could not stay there after everything they did to you." Thank you for standing by me, I said. That means more than you know. There is something else you need to know. Before I left, I accessed some company files. I should not have, but I felt like you deserved to know the truth. What did you find? Emails between Marcus and Amber from weeks ago. Marcus knew about the file deletions. He told Amber to do it. There is an email where he explicitly wrote, "Make sure nothing traces back to us." He knew she was framing you. He planned it. My breath caught. Do you have copies? I sent them to myself before I quit. They do not know yet. I immediately called Thomas. Within an hour, Thomas had the emails. He read through them and looked at me with something like awe. This is conspiracy. This is not just civil, this is potentially criminal. Marcus Hartford knowingly framed you. He orchestrated the entire thing. What does this mean? I asked. It means we are not settling. We are going for complete destruction. He tried to destroy your life. We are going to make sure he never has the power to do this to anyone again. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt truly powerful. Not just defended, but ready to strike back. Thursday morning, Thomas filed an amended complaint. The new version included the emails Jordan had provided. It added charges of conspiracy to commit fraud, evidence tampering, and civil RICO violations. The damages we sought increased to $50 million. Thomas also sent criminal referrals to the district attorney's office. What Marcus and Amber had done crossed the line from unethical business practices into actual crimes. The legal community was shocked. Several attorneys I did not know reached out to Thomas offering their support. The case was becoming notorious. Thursday afternoon, TechFlow's liability insurance company issued a statement distancing themselves from the company's actions. They would not be covering any damages related to the fraudulent accusations against me. TechFlow was on its own. Friday morning, TechFlow's board of directors held an emergency meeting. By noon, the results were public. Marcus Hartford was removed as chief executive officer effective immediately. Amber Hartford was terminated. The board issued a public apology to me. They offered full settlement. Thomas showed me the offer. $22 million. Full public admission of wrongdoing. Coverage of all my legal fees. A written apology. An agreement to cooperate with any criminal investigation. It is a good offer, Thomas said. You have won. You can take this and move on with your life. Douglas, who was on speakerphone, added, You have accomplished what you set out to do. You have been vindicated. You can accept this with your head held high. I thought about it carefully. I could keep fighting. I might get more money, but what I really wanted was my life back, my reputation back, the truth acknowledged. I will accept it on one condition, I said. TechFlow has to establish an employee protection fund. $5 million from the settlement goes into a fund that provides legal resources for anyone who is wrongfully terminated. So this never happens to anyone else. Thomas smiled. You are a better person than most people would be in your position. The following Monday, TechFlow held a press conference. The interim chief executive officer, a board member named Andrew Sullivan, read a prepared statement. He acknowledged that I had been wrongfully terminated. He admitted that false accusations had been made against me. He confirmed that Amber Hartford had corrupted system files and that Marcus Hartford had knowingly participated in framing me. He apologized without reservation. I attended the press conference, standing in the back of the room. Reporters noticed me and wanted interviews afterward. I kept my statement brief. I just wanted the truth to be known. I hope this serves as a reminder that integrity matters and that the truth eventually comes out. I hope no one else ever has to go through what I experienced. 2 weeks later, the district attorney filed criminal charges. Marcus faced charges of filing a false police report, conspiracy to commit fraud, and evidence tampering. Amber faced charges for computer fraud and evidence destruction. Both eventually pleaded guilty as part of plea bargains. Marcus received 6 months in a minimum security facility, 3 years probation, and was permanently banned from serving in corporate leadership roles. Amber received 200 hours of community service and 3 years probation. Both now had permanent criminal records. 1 month after the settlement, I sat in my living room and thought about what I wanted to do next. My bank account now held the settlement money. I had paid off my mortgage. I had established an emergency fund. I had more financial security than I had ever had in my life. But more important than the money was what it represented. Vindication, justice, proof that the truth mattered. I had received 47 job offers. Major companies wanted me specifically because of what I had endured and how I had fought back. But as I reviewed the offers, I realized I did not want to climb another corporate ladder. I did not want to work for someone else who might betray me again. I wanted to help people. 6 weeks after the settlement, I established my own consulting firm. I named it Corbett Solutions using my middle name. The firm specialized in client relationship management systems, business development strategy, and corporate ethics consulting. My first client was Douglas Meridian. He hired me to design and implement a comprehensive client management system for his company, done right from the beginning. "I trust you," he said simply. "Build me something that works." My first hire was Jordan. I offered a salary significantly higher than what TechFlow had paid, along with profit sharing and respect. "I never doubted you," Jordan said on their first day. "Even when it was hard to say it out loud, I knew you were telling the truth." The consulting firm grew faster than I had anticipated. My story had become well known in the Austin business community. Companies wanted to work with someone who had integrity and who understood the real cost of corporate betrayal. 3 months after everything fell apart, I attended a Women in Business conference in Austin. I had been invited to speak on a panel about workplace ethics and standing up for yourself in difficult situations. After the panel, I was approached by a familiar face. Sarah, my former best friend. "That was a powerful talk," she said nervously. "Can we get coffee? Really talk. I owe you a real apology." I considered it. I was still hurt by how quickly she had abandoned me. But I also understood fear and the pressure to protect your own career. "I would like that," I said. "Let's try." We made plans to meet the following week. I did not know if our friendship could be fully repaired, but I was willing to try. The final scene of this chapter of my life took place in my new office. It was small but professional, located in a nice building downtown. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Photos of my mother sat on my desk, alongside my college diploma and a few meaningful items from my career. I sat at my computer and reflected on everything that had happened. The betrayal, the lies, the financial destruction, the criminal accusations, the complete collapse of everything I thought I had built. And then the fight back, the evidence, the allies, the vindication, the triumph. I had learned that silence could be strategic. I had learned that my value was not defined by any single company or position. I had learned that truth eventually surfaces even when buried under lies. I had learned that the systems and relationships I had built over 18 years had real tangible worth that no one could erase with accusations. Most importantly, I had learned that standing up for yourself did not mean being loud or aggressive. It meant knowing your worth and refusing to accept less. My email pinged with a new message. The sender was someone named Amanda Griffin from Houston. The subject line read, "Wrongful termination, need help." I opened it. "Dear Miss Hartley, I read about what happened to you and how you fought back. I was recently wrongfully terminated from a tech company here in Houston. They are making false accusations about my work to avoid paying severance. I do not have money for a lawyer. I saw that you established an employee protection fund. Can you help me?" I smiled and began typing a response. "Dear Amanda, I understand exactly what you are going through. Let me tell you what we are going to do." I thought about my mother and how proud she would be, not just of the victory, but of what I was doing with it, helping others, making sure what happened to me did not happen to anyone else. I looked at her photo on my desk and could almost hear her voice, saying what she always said when I accomplished something important. "I am proud of you." I spent 18 years building something I thought they could take away. I was wrong. What I built was not a career or a position or access to a particular system. What I built was myself, my knowledge, my integrity, my resilience, my ability to create value and build relationships and solve problems. And that belonged to me alone. It always had. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where someone tried to take credit for your work or push you out of something you built? How did you handle it? What would you do differently if you could go back? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I think we can all learn from each other's experiences. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and reminds all of us that we are not alone in facing workplace challenges and injustice. And if you have not already subscribed to this channel, I share stories like this one regularly, stories about real people facing real challenges and finding their way through to the other side. Finally, if you know someone who might need to hear this story, someone who is going through their own workplace struggle, or who feels like they have been wronged and do not know how to fight back, please share this with them. Sometimes we need to know that others have walked this path and survived. Sometimes we just need to know that justice is possible. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope that whatever you are facing right now, you remember that your worth is not defined by any job or any person's opinion of you. You are valuable. You are capable. And you deserve to be treated with respect. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember that the truth always finds its way to the surface eventually. You just have to be strong enough to wait for it and brave enough to fight for it when it arrives.